Hi Team We Run, Coach Alexa here, coach for Reading, South Oxfordshire and online. We are properly into autumn now, aren't we? My favourite season of the year, and the view out of my house is looking suspiciously like my wallpaper at the moment. Some amazing colours, lots of slippy and wet leaves on the ground, lots of mud and puddles and rain. Fantastic. Yeah, love it. So I've had a couple of runners talk to me or ask me recently about how do I keep my feet dry on runs, and the answer, I'm afraid to say, is that you probably don't. And just going with it and getting wet feet is probably the way to go. You can get, and I've talked in videos before about Gore-Tex running shoes, so the same sort of waterproof type fabric that you might find in a waterproof jacket, for example, as part of the upper of the shoe. You know, Gore-Tex isn't infallible, it will eventually wet through and let water in, and it also means that it's not going to let the sweat out of your feet quite as effectively. The problem is though with Gore-Tex shoes is that there's a massive great hole in them for your foot to go through, so water is going to get in around, you know, the base of your ankle, around that opening in your shoe, and there are holes in shoes usually for laces, although some of the Gore-Tex shoes use a lacing system that sits on top of that fabric upper, which are a bit better. But, you know, regardless, the water is going to get in the top of your shoe. So your feet will eventually get wet, you know, particularly if, like me, you find a brilliant inner joy in just running straight through the puddles, then, yeah, you know, your feet are going to get wet pretty quickly. So what can you do to just make the feet more comfortable, I guess? I generally, at this time of year, lube my feet up. I just use Vaseline, but you know, other things like Body Glide can be equally as effective, or maybe more effective, just so that I've got that little bit of slide, I guess, between foot and sock. Technical socks, so that means something made out of man-made fibres, so they're not going to stretch and get misshapen like cotton socks would. And yeah, you know, they're going to dry out as quickly as they get wet, so they dry out a little bit more quickly if the weather does change a little bit. So that's really the key. The other couple of things, I guess, is that normally it's not just water that gets in your shoe, it's muddy water. It might have got bits of grit in it, bits of leaf, bits of, you know, mud or whatever else. So it is useful if you find that you've got any of that in your shoe, you know, kind of just niggling away, just to stop briefly, give your shoe a little bit of an empty out, the sock a little bit of a dust off, because those sort of things that are small irritations can relatively quickly, when you run, become hot spots or blisters or areas of soreness. When I'm going out on a longer or a run that I know is definitely going to be in these sort of, you know, muddy, leafy, wonderful autumnal conditions, I also wear little gaiters. Now these are unusually clean because they're a new pair, and look, I mean, they've got shark print on them, so what's not to like, to be honest. So these have a little clip at the front that hooks under your laces at the front. The top is nice and smoothed and kind of smoothly stitched down, so it's tight little, not tight, but a snug cuff around your ankle, and then there's a bit of Velcro on the back, and you add a little Velcro square to the back of your shoe, so effectively your foot goes through them like my hand has done here, so your foot's going forward, and it just acts like a little bit of a gaiter to stop as much of the mud, leaves, gravel, everything coming in the top of your shoe with the water, and it will, you know, act almost like a little bit of a splash guard, so not as much water will potentially come into the shoe. Now obviously this isn't waterproof, this is almost like a swimming costume type stretchy material, so water will still get in, but it stops some of that grit and mud and everything, and they come, as I say, in a fantastic selection of wonderful colours. So give those a go, embrace the joy of splashing through puddles, getting your feet wet. All your kit and your shoes will dry out really nice and quickly. Never put shoes on a radiator to dry. Give them a little bit of a pat down with a towel, some newspaper, kitchen towel, get the standing water and a bit of the excess water out of them, and leave them in a well ventilated, warm place just to dry off, and they'll turn around pretty quickly for you. Happy autumn running.